will be the role for Saquon Barkley and the Giants? I didn't do a lot on it last week. I heard you and BT drive it in quite a bit discussing Saquon Barkley, and here we are today, just a few hours away from the deadline. Ultimately, I don't think that Barkley is going to miss any time with the Giants. I think that the two sides will come to. Oh, you're doubting that? You're doubting that?
Oh, well, here's the thing, Sal, and good to be working with you, brother, and your
You
new time slot starting a week from today. Look, there are 3 running backs that got tagged, and I remember seeing this on social media. It was like, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard all get tagged. They're the non-exclusive franchise tag, which means if anybody wants to acquire them, they'd have to give their respective teams 2 first-round draft picks. There is no way that's ever happening for a running back in the NFL. With Lamar Jackson, who was one of the other players tagged, maybe that would have been interesting. So as soon as I saw that, I said, oh, it's a good way to keep cheap on running backs.
Right.
So that is the reality of the situation for all 3. I think Tony Pollard is the less contentious of these. Josh Jacobs says he's holding out. Saquon Barkley is maybe threatening to hold out. To me, the likelihood of this getting done is very, very small. And I don't say that because I think Saquon is a jerk or he's looking for more money. It's just the reality of a new GM. So we got to remember this. This is Joe Schoen's second season.
Right.
It's a new GM who can't get taken advantage of / fleeced on his second big deal that he has to do. Because he did a great job with Dexter Lawrence. Did a great job with Daniel Jones. Whether you believe he's worth $40 million or not, it's basically a 2-year contract. If he stinks, you move on after a year. But with Saquon wants the big end money. And no team is ready to give running backs big end money right now. Joe Schoen is not going to do it. So unless Saquon caves and, takes the L, so to speak,
right,
I just don't see a deal getting done. I think he ultimately, though, does play on the tag.
I have to well, first of all, I don't believe Barkley is going to hold out. But we know this is the bigger issue to me. 2 things from it. Number 1, this is Dave Gettleman's fault. This is exactly why you don't take a running back number 2 overall.
Yeah, but hold on. Did you think it was a bad decision in real time?
Yes, I did. I hated it.
Why? Tell me why. Tell me why.
Because of this exactly. You can find, all due respect, I will admit, this is very odd having this conversation with an actual NFL running back. But running backs, Tiki, especially now the way the game is, you can find guys with great value.
Yeah, in the second round and then underpay them like they did me.
Exactly right. It's exactly. I get the same production. It's disrespectful. It's not right, but that's the reality, and that's what you're seeing here. So at the time, I said, look, if you don't like, remember, the Giants needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
They have the number 2 pick overall. At the time, I'm saying, look, that's great. If you don't like Sam Darnold or whoever, trade down and take an offensive lineman. I would argue, and you'd probably argue against me, but I would argue that the other pieces, offensive line, more important to a running game than the actual back.
Always.
Okay, so now that's not right. It's not fair. It's disrespectful to you, to everybody who's played your position, certainly to Saquon Barkley, but that's the reality. Now, if I'm Barkley, I'm ticked off because I know I'm worth more than this.
He is.
So
I'm not even doubting what he's worth. I'm not saying Saquon Barkley's not worth 12 or 15 or whatever it is. Of course he is. He's one of the most dynamic players that we've seen at the position when he's healthy. And that's something that you have to take into account. Now, do I believe it's going to be an issue going forward? No, I don't. He's 26 years old.
Right.
He doesn't feel old, right? When I was 30 and I'm just, hitting my peak and people were saying, oh, you can play for 3 or 4 more years. Like, no, I can't, dude. That's not happening. I'm 30, right? Saquon's 26 years old. There is lots of football in front of him, but the position is evolving and it's changing. And when you see some of the coordinators in the NFL, especially these kids, they're not kids anymore. They've gotten a little bit older, and Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and LaFleur and all these guys. Like, as they look at this position, it's not one that is absolutely necessary for the success of their offensive systems. You need a good one,
right?
But it's not absolutely necessary. And so they're not going to pay for it at the level that they're going to pay, say, a wide receiver. And so I get what Saquon is saying, and he's right. But it's an old, antiquated running backs that rush for 12,000 yards are always going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Because that's literally how it used to be. It's not that way anymore. It's evolved and it's changed. And I think, the Las Vegas Raiders, I don't doubt Jerry Jones is going to fall in this category, but that's a different conversation. But certainly the New York Giants aren't going to overpay for the running back position anymore, like the Carolina Panthers did, or like the Cowboys did with Zeke.
Which is fine, and it's smart, and I understand that. And this is not the player, to your point, that they drafted. However, they need to do right by him. And this is a guy who's been a great face of the franchise, not only the heart and soul of their offense, and all due respect to Daniel Jones, who was good last year, he's nothing without Saquon Barkley.
I agree with you on this, by the way.
So they have
this side of it, I agree with you.
Okay, so think about this. Barkley's come out and said, now maybe I missed it, and you're more in tune with the situation than I am, but he's basically come out and said, I'm not trying to get every last dollar, but like there's right and wrong, and it's wrong to disrespect the focal point of your offense, a guy who's handled himself as well as you possibly could. He's
no
not.
Doubt.
So, like, just do right by him. And now, I don't know do you know what it would take to get it done? Are we talking 20? I heard Jerry talk about the morning show, 2 years guaranteed, $26 million.
I mean, 2 years guaranteed is nothing. $26 million is $3 or $4 million over what they would have to pay him anyways if they franchised him.
But isn't the second year not guaranteed, the franchise tag?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, the way this thing works, because let's look at it as if he signs the franchise tag and he plays on the $10 million tag this year. Next year, if they tagged him again, it would be $12 million.
Right.
So the very, minimal starting point for a long-term extension is $22 million, 10 this year, 12 next year, as the guaranteed money,
right?
Because that's guaranteed already,
right?
If you just franchise him this year, next year, he's going to make $22 million,
right?
So it's got to be a premium on top of that.
Okay.
So I would say it's more like $30 million
gets it done,
guaranteed.
2 years, $30 million guaranteed.
That probably would work.
He'd take it, but for them, that's a little bit much.
I don't know if he would take that.
Well, if he doesn't take that, then I can't side with him, because didn't Miles Sanders get 4 years, $26 million?
Yes.
So now you get, which is just a mind-boggling, disrespectful contract.
Of course.
It just shows you the...
But that's the value of the market.
Oh, agreed, fine. And if it's me running the team, like I'm with Shane, that's why I don't take a running back high. I'm not paying a running back. I'm drafting one late, and I'm getting production from him. End of story. But this is a unique circumstance where you have a superstar face of the franchise.
And he's our superstar.
Correct.
Ours, not like manufactured somewhere. He's our guy.
You throw in that they lost Odell, and I was with Gettleman at the time trading Odell, but like this is a homegrown. You drafted him. He's been a star every time he's healthy on the field. He's a focal point of the offense, a game-changing back, and he's not asking for $40 million over 5 years.
But I think he also wants the length. So you said the 2 year, 30. Let's say it's 2 years, $30 million.
Right.
In 2 years now, he's 28.
He's going to want,
and now he's got to go get another contract. But at that point, there is definitely no way he's signing a long-term deal. So this is his only shot to sign a long-term deal. Long-term, I mean like 5 years. I'm not talking about like 8 years, like a 5-year deal. It's only this year, because even next year, it's just a year closer to 30. You know what I mean? So the Giants certainly won't give him a 5-year deal at 27 that takes him to his year 32 age season. So this is his only chance. I think that's the disconnect. And so I don't know exactly what the holdup is. It's either the money or it's the years.
Okay, so now if you're him, if
I'm him, I want to finish my career as a Giant.
Okay, but what do you do then? Because you want to be here ultimately, let's say the next 5 years, right? 6 years, however long he could play.
Yeah.
But are you going to just keep risking it where any play, your leg could go out, you tear an ACL, you're screwed. That's not right either.
Or Eric Gray comes up and Tony Pollard you, like Tony Pollard did to Zeke Elliott.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Which is a very real possibility.
Of course it is.
He's got to, what are you supposed to do? The only leverage he has is to say, I'm not going to play.
Oh, he has no leverage. He has no leverage because that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. Now, he's not subject to the fine. Like a lot of people say, if he holds out from training camp, then he'll get fined.
But he's not going to get paid.
Well, he's not going to get paid, but he made $32 million on his first deal. He's got tons of endorsements. Saquon's fine monetarily, but he's not going to get fined because he's not under contract. So until he signs his tender, he can do whatever he wants. He can just not be around, and it's going to suck because the Giants won't have him. But there's no punitive, nature to it from a CBA standpoint.
And let's say he has to do that for 2 years because he's not going to play under the franchise tag. Then he becomes a free agent in 2 years.
Yes.
And he's 2 years older, hasn't played. We saw with Le'Veon Bell. And even then, let's just say hypothetically, Saquon hit the open market today. Mm-hmm. What do you think he's getting on the open market?
Well, let's use a real example.
Right.
Dalvin Cook. Dalvin
Okay,
Cook,
right.
4 straight Pro Bowler. Yeah, I know he had an ACL injury.
One of the best backs in the league.
One of the best backs in the league over the last 4 years. And really, going back to his rookie season where he was fantastic. What is his market value right now? Because he's been free for a minute.
Right.
Nobody has signed him. It's probably $8 million. Half of what his contract was for. So the open market is not a testament. Like you can't, it's weird. Like it's the only position in the NFL where you can't say, I want to be free. It's almost like you have to say, I need you to value me more than the free agent market.
Right.
I need you to value me more. So it's almost like it's like you're going loggerheads. In this case, Barkley with Joe Shane. Joe Shane and Barkley are going loggerheads. Barkley has no leverage, and he's trying to be like the bad guy and say, I'm going to hold out. But he's also got to be like, dude, you got to love me. You have to love me. Because if I'm free at any point, I'm going to get probably half of what you are offering me. So I need you to love me and give me a premium, even though the market doesn't dictate it.
Right.
It's hard. It's the hardest position in football right now to value.
I don't know how much he's asking necessarily, whether it is in the dollar amount or the years, but I know that he just wants to feel the love and the respect.
Yeah, it's true.
That's it. If you're saying he's good money-wise, he wants, like, you're doing, to me, Teak, I live by right and wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, there's, when things are wrong. And to offer him the contract that he's been offered, it's just wrong.
Well, this is the rock and the hard place, Sal.
The Giants got to do right. And the two things, though, the NFL's at fault because the system is bullcrap.
Yeah.
You're right.
You're not wrong.
So what is the Players Association doing with this, the franchise tags?
Well, I mean, this is such a bigger conversation because you go back and you look at how offense has evolved now that the quarterback is getting integrated into the run game, right? I've listened to a ton of podcasts about where the future of the NFL is, and the ones that I've started to agree with make sense. The quarterback that can run is your extra weapon,
right?
Right? It creates chaos for defenses. Right. They cannot be sound. They can't sit back there and call a defense and it be sound if the quarterback can now hit you for 40 or go 80 like Lamar Jackson.
From a defensive perspective, if you're playing a guy, I don't care if it's Peyton Manning, if you know he's not a threat to run, that eliminates half the battle right there.
Exactly right.
Immediately.
That's exactly right. You can squat on those bootlegs. Like you can just sit there because you know there's no threat to the run. So that's changed the running back position most likely irreparably, right? Because you're not going to see quarterbacks in college be 5 steps, sit in the pocket,
pure pocket
go
passer.
1 read, 2 read, 3 read. Let me get my check. You're not. It doesn't do that anymore. Now it's 1.5 reads. It truly is. It's 1 read. That's not there. Is my second guy there? Nope. All right. Let's tuck it and go. Right. Let's get some space. If I can run and pick up 4 yards, I'll go pick up 4 yards. But I'm not standing in the pocket and throwing an incompletion. And so the game has forever changed. And I think we still in our minds when it comes, and especially as it pertains to Saquon Barkley, we refuse to acknowledge that. Like we look at Saquon in a vacuum and say, look, he's been one of the best. He's iconic already. He's done amazing things. He's got game-breaking ability. He's a great leader in the locker room. He's the kind of dude you want on your team.
You think he's the best running back in Giants history?
Yeah, he is. No, I'm just kidding. You got to earn that. I mean, you know what I mean? Right. So you got to earn that statistically. But he is a great leader on that team. And so all of these things in a vacuum, you're saying, pay the dude, pay the dude, pay the dude. But then you back up and go to 10,000 feet, and you're like, yeah, but it's not worth it. That's the challenge.
Right.
That's where he's stuck.
We're kind of in agreement because from Joe Shane's perspective, I totally get it. But if I'm Barkley, I say, you got to do right by me. I understand that the running back is devalued. I understand I'm not going to get 5 years, $50 million. But you've got to do right. You've got to make me a happy employee.
Yeah, that's hard.
And don't you think the fans just want, come on, we should be excited here. They made it to the divisional round last year. It's another year with Brian Dable here. You got Daniel Jones is locked up. Barkley, you need that. You need him back.
But what does the fan really want? Does the fan want to win?
Right.
Or does he want to see his guy be successful?
Yeah, but don't you think both these go hand in hand, at least this year? How are they going to win without Saquon Barkley this year?
They're not. But we're talking long term, And in the short term, the Giants absolutely need Saquon. Absolutely.
So how
they
are they
can't afford to have him sit out. They can't afford to have him play on a one-year deal and be disgruntled about it.
Correct.
The franchise
you
thing.
don't want to.
You can't have that.
You want him happy
Yes.
and eager to go to work and excited, not just they're cashing the check. And you guys talked about it with Dalvin Cook potentially being another option. All due respect to him, and he's great.
Yeah, that was just the gangster thing BT brought up.
All right, it is. It would, first of all, be nasty to do that. But let's just say on the field, forget about the personal feelings aside. Dalvin Cook is not doing what Saquon Barkley can do here with the Giants.
No, not at all. I mean, I think one of the beauties of Saquon, and this is statistically driven, it's mostly with wide receivers. If you have like 20-plus plays, 20-plus big plays, like explosive plays, if you have those explosive plays, you're 3 times more likely to score touchdowns, right? So having a big play ability is enormous. The Giants don't do it in their pass game. They just haven't over the last couple of years. They've gotten it in their run game. So you need big plays because you're 3 times more likely to score touchdowns when you have 20-plus yard plays, right? So they need Saquon in that regard because they don't have it in their pass game. But maybe with Darren Waller, maybe with Jalen Hyatt, maybe with this new expanded offensive system in the second year of Brian Dable and Mike Kafka, maybe they get those in the pass game. And so there's just this fine line that the Giants are dancing with Saquon about where the offense is, what they need him for, and where they're going. And so this is why Joe Shane has to play hardball. He can't get fleeced right now at the very nascent stages of him being an NFL general manager. He's got to set the precedent, and that's why there's been a stalemate for the last 2 months plus.
I've got to believe that over the course of the next few hours here, they come to their senses, both sides, and just figure out a way to where Joe Shane can be disciplined and smart about the way he's building the Giants moving forward, but at the same time, make their guy happy. I'll tell you another thing. If I'm Barkley and I see that you did it for Daniel Jones, I know he's a quarterback, but
it's a different world.
But he's better. If I'm Barkley, I'm saying I'm better at my job than he is. It is, and I get that it's a quarterback and you're going to pay him that much money. And either way, Jones is making a lot more. But you've got to give me mine because he is. I'm Barkley, not pointing to Jones.
Yeah.
He's not as good without me. Where's mine? Right?
I don't disagree, dude, but I'm looking at it from a business standpoint. The business tells you Saquon doesn't have the leverage. And if you give away leverage just because you like a guy, you set a precedent that never leaves you.
Any part of you, though, if Barkley just says, you know what, like Josh Jacobs, we talked about, he's
I'd understand it.
Hell-bent. Right, if he said, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do it.
I would understand it. It would suck because we'd lose one of the best players at the position in the game, but I would understand.
No, it'd be a disaster for the Giants.
Oh, without a doubt.
And now you're talking about he's losing, let's just say worst case he lost everything, $10 million this year. He'll make that up.
Yeah, but you can't sit out a season. You just can't.
There's no way to replicate that, right?
No, you just lose a year. You're a year older.
Well, but he's losing $10 million. He'll get eventually.
It's not even the money. Forget the money.
Okay, you're right.
I'm just talking about you don't want to have that stapled to you.
God, but there's a point of just disrespect where you gotta. Yeah, I think they're going to come to agreement here some way, somehow. I hope, anyway.
I hope
that the Giants can make Saquon Barkley happy. We'll get to your calls on the other side. 877-337-6666.